Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Big shout out to Isaac Mather for the new podcast intro. You can check Isaac's music out on all socials or directly at isaacmathermusic.com. Here we are, another quick 15, 16, whatever minute burst, Matt. I know it's been crazy. And again, I start every episode saying that we're not the only people that are busy in the world.
No.
But we're two people that want to keep doing something that we find purpose and meaning in, which is this podcast.
For sure.
So we talked about, it wasn't rocket science in our little business series burst here, about taking the step and just keep going. You have to start or you just never do.
Yeah.
So, okay, I start. Now where do I get the money from?
Sure. Definitely one of those things that comes up, it's one of those, you can't make money. What's the one people always say? It takes money to make money.
Yeah.
As if, that's now I get to wipe my hands clean of it, right? I wanted to, but, again, now I can go back to my comfortable life because it's not my fault because I don't have the money, which somehow that isn't their fault, but it should be. But the answer, there's many answers to that, right, Paul? It's like, okay, what options exist there? Well, you could raise the money through partnerships or through investors, right? You could, why don't we name a few and then maybe talk about the pros and cons of each, the trade-offs of each, like we talk about all the time. You could, depending on how much money it is, you could do what I did, which is completely cut as many expenses as was humanly possible for me, while at the same time, find other revenue streams, other ways to make money, right? So you could do one, cut expenses, try to make more money. If you do both, that's obviously going to move you quicker. There's I talked about or mentioned it, but the OPM, the other people's money. There's a variety of ways to lean into that. Depending on where you are in your life, can you take do you have assets that you can borrow against, right? Do you have a home that you have equity in? Do you have, assets are assets, whatever assets you might have that you might be able to borrow against. So, what am I missing? Anything?
You could just get it from a bank or a financial institution.
Just the loans themselves, correct? Yep. Which I guess the only reason I passed on that, Paul, and I shouldn't have. I'm glad you brought it up because that's generally the most traditional way. Is it still requires some money down, right?
Yeah.
Because I would say right, like SBA loan, which is how I started in my Subway business, my first one. They still require 10% down. So there are, even with traditional loan type products, there is still money down. But to your point, look, if I'm going to buy an asset, which it's going to cost me several $100,000, let's say, well, if I can go to a bank or a lender of some sort and they only require 10% down or 20% down, then it clearly reduces the amount of money I have to come up with on my own. It just means you have a note to pay as part of the business, and you better account for that. But that's certainly the other one, or in the most common one. That's I still do that for most things that I assets that I buy for reasons we could get into, but that's not the point right now.
It is the most common one. What I like, and maybe it's just mostly the age group I teach, I like, go get your Starbucks coffee or whatever you need, right? But work weekends as a waitress or a waiter, or
Hmm.
take another job up and save. I mean, a lot of it's just the age group. Save up all that money separately and have the discipline, right?
Yes.
Would it be
That's
fast? Would it be faster if you cut out your Starbucks and expenses? Of course it would.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's just a personal question because probably the longer it takes you, the more likely the average person is to stop doing it at
Stop
some
doing
point.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 6 months you could, but say you took the traditional loan approach, 6 months you could have your 10% down probably. I mean, unless it's a car dealership. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what said
Right. What
business,
we're talking
how
about,
much
but
startups needed, but
yeah. Yeah.
you
But I
know,
mean,
the,
let's
the
talking
same people.
normal. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this so I, I a lot of kids go to college and I'm like, you go to college for 15 hours a week. You study some, you sleep some, you eat, you play a sport. There's 168 hours in a week. If you don't have money to start a business by the time you get out of school, you were just there for the wrong reasons. Or if you haven't created a network while you're there for the wrong reasons. Uh Depending what age you are, it might not be that simple, but it does take sacrifice, regardless of what age you
Yeah.
are.
Paul, I think you just nailed the word. Whatever of those you choose, cut your expenses, find other ways to make money on the side, combination of the two, which is what I believe in. Sacrifice, right? You've got to do other things. What do you think you're going to do? Go, okay, I want to create a business, a new business. I got this idea or this whatever happens to be. And let's just hypothetically say it's going to 500,000 to either buy the business. I mean, you can go buy an existing business for $500,000 and probably, depending on what it is, an industry, a business that's already been operating, somebody already owns, someone already built, and you might be able to buy that for $500,000, and it might pay you $100,000 a year on it. That's a pretty good investment, right? So let's say you got to raise that, you need that $500,000, you need 10% of it because you're going to get an SBA loan to buy this business. So you need 50 grand. Well, if their answer is, well, I can't because I'm too busy, or I don't, I don't want to give up my whatever's, the average person wastes so much money on junk a year that'll make your head spin. But you know, the opportunity exists to work those nights, work those weekends, whatever it might be. I've done it. Many people have done it in order to get the money necessary. The idea that, well, I already have a full-time job, therefore why I shouldn't have to do that. That's what kills most people's dreams, most people's desire. It's like that's where it stops. Like, okay, I got to take action, and one of my actions is I need the money, the capital to invest in the business or buy the business or whatever it is. Well, I don't have enough money to do it. Oh well, I guess it's over with. That's so common, but there's ways around that. Is what we're talking about.
Right.
That don't
Question
require
for you.
borrowing from your rich aunt or uncle, right? Or going to the grocery store and buying lottery tickets or
That's a
whatever
good way.
or
That's a
whatever
good way.
people do.
So, question for you before I say what I'm going to say next. Do you watch much TV?
No, very little.
Sporting
And
events?
sporting events, yeah. And that's maybe some stuff with my wife or that we'll get into a little bit, but no, Paul, I don't. I think I know where you're going with that. No, I focus on the things that matter to me. Many times that's work and productivity. Many times that's my daughters. Many times that's my relationship with my wife. Many times that's my friendships and my networks. Um, no, I bet, boy, I don't know, 5 to 7 hours a week, maybe. Again, sporting events would be
Right.
the one, the topper.
Well, I just had every night at the tap house, I have the conversation with somebody. They're like, "Oh, where you been?" Well, I was just at golf practice. Oh my gosh, and you work and you have this. When do you sleep? And it's kind of funny. I average a little over 7 hours of sleep a night, so I'm not sleep deprived.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
But you're giving up other stuff, right?
yeah, I
TV
not watching TV. Like I don't, and I'm not
or
knocking
or
people
social
that do.
media.
But the point of this, why? I mean, the social media is another question with me, you know. But they ask where I get the time. That's really where I get the time. And most people that are asking me that question, that's probably what they don't understand because it's embedded, right or wrong.
Yeah.
But the point of this episode was, where do you get the money? Okay, if you watch 2 hours of TV a night and you go work somewhere 2, 3 hours and those jobs exist, there you go in 6 months, down payment. And because
No,
if you can't do that to raise the money, then
you don't
you're not.
want it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can operate the business because you know what I've found. I've always preached it. 1 month in, 1 month and a half in, it costs a lot of money when other people are working your business for you,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
okay if that's in the design and you need good people.
Yep.
But you're not going to just open it turnkey with cash flow and issues in the beginning and just never be there. Like
No.
that would defeat the point of opening the business if you're not being there to make sure it's running. So
There's
if they
no
can't come
no
up with the money, they just don't want the business, and that's fine.
and they're not they're not prepared to work the business and all that comes with the business for the long term it takes for it to succeed. Look, if you can't find 15, 20 hours a week to make your dreams come true, what happens a year down the road when you hit a hiccup because sales are down, or there's some new law that took place that affects you, or whatever the case may be. Someone falls in your parking lot and you get sued. I mean, you don't have any fight in you. If you're a quitter. You're not going to be ready for these other things anyway. You're just doomed to fail. I mean, there's a resiliency that comes with being a business owner, a resiliency that you don't know until you've done it, and it prepares you in ways for to live in a difficult world, that going to a job every day with clock them out of here, someone else will have to deal with these problems, or they're not. I don't even. They're not my problems to deal with. I'm just an employee that you can't possibly build. It's like lifting weights. It's like thick skin. It's like anything, Paul. It's repetition. It's what you would call it in sports, reps. It's just being there and doing it all the time that builds. You see the game faster, right? Or let me put it differently: the game slows down. You make decisions faster, I should say. I solve so my wife and I talk about, we solve more problems in a day than we probably did when we were employees in a year. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. We're dealing with things, issues. And when I say problems, I don't mean the place is on fire, but I do mean things that have to be dealt with and have to be dealt with almost immediately. We're so used to it that something happens in our life that's a quote unquote problem, it rolls off our back like water off a duck. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, of course we're dealing with something. That's like things that we see other people in our lives, friends, family, who just it'll ruin the world for 6 months. We don't even know about, we don't even think about it in 2 days. There's no resiliency there. They haven't built any of that, and a business owner needs that as much as maybe more than they need capital, more than they need a good idea. You need resiliency, as much as anything, and that is a skill that comes with getting dragged through the ringer a bit, facing problems consistently.
Yeah, it's an interesting switch. I mean, I had an emergency the other day, and it's now Friday, and I know it'll be solved Monday, but I can't let it ruin my weekend, right?
No, you got to just you do what you can, you control what you control, you keep pushing forward, and you. I had a meeting today. I won't get into the details because it was, it's financial and that kind of stuff. And the gentleman I was meeting with brought something to my attention that I wasn't aware of, and he was like pained by it, and I said, hey, we know what we know. We'll make the change. We'll deal with the consequences, and we'll move on. Like, what else is there to discuss right now?
Right, nothing.
There's nothing else to discuss, and it's not some sort of giant thing. But to him it was like, oh my gosh, we just. And I was like, look, I deal with problems all the time. This is just I'm good. That's what you do. So if you don't have that resilience, and I think that's what takes most people out, Paul, is they're not resilient. They don't know how to keep getting up, and when they get knocked down, and because you're going to get knocked down, it's going to happen. It's the only way to the top. It's the only way to the top. Most people just want to slide in the corner and never be in the fight, right? And
Yeah.
you can do that, Paul, and that comes with some advantages. You don't have the stress, and you don't have the headache, if they want to call it that, but you also don't get any of the upside. And let me tell you, the upside far, far and away outweighs the downside. And I don't just mean financially; I mean about the person you get to become, and that's what's so important. But most people don't want to do that. They want to quit and slide to the corner.
That's a great point. I'll end with an analogy. I mean, you take the first step. It's right in front of you how to make the money. I mean, it might take a little time, but if you don't start the time, it's going to take an infinite amount of time. You'll never get there. But I'll end with this analogy. If you're climbing a mountain and it seems like a super easy path to get there, it just means someone got there before you. That's why the path's so easy, right?
Yeah.
If there's no struggle, it means that path was put there by someone else, and
and
that's
nobody,
that's
and
what
nobody
people
cares.
want.
There's no payoff there, right?
No, no,
It's like climbing that little crest outside my house. Nobody cares. It's not hard, and
no,
and, and there's no payoff for that. And
yeah,
and the payoff, just we're not talking financial, and that's the thing that I wish I could get through people's heads. It's about you and how it transforms you and how they can affect the people in your life, not just financially. But most people don't get a chance to see that, and that's why I love talking about it to people, because I want them to. I'm desperate for them to. But most
yeah,
people, again, play it safe, slide in the corner, let life blow by you. As long as I don't have to think or take a chance, or have my Sunday NFL games disrupted, then I'll just keep going. I'll just keep coasting, and that's a sad place in my opinion.
sad. It's sad. All right, well, hopefully this is helping. Until next time, we'll go to phase 3. See what you do after you have the money.
You're right.
All right, see you, Matt.
See ya.